For our first Kafka on StreamNative or KSN example, we're going to produce and consume messages with the Kafka protocol, and this application will also happen to use transactions. I'm going to first show this application running against a Kafka server, and then we're going to convert it to use JWT tokens in this example to produce and consume messages against a KSN-enabled Pulsar cluster. So here I have my coding environment, and I'm going to be working in the transactions folder here. So I have a Kafka producer transactions. I'm referencing this config file. So all of the examples in the videos, for the most part, at least in the first few examples, we're going to be using a client.properties file. In this example, we use the client.properties.transactions file. So that's where I'm going to make a lot of my edits. So you don't really need to touch any of the code in here. But we're going to be publishing the same message over to two topics, and then we're going to commit the transaction. Once the transaction is committed, we're going to be able to see on the consumer that we can consume that message. One thing you'll need to do before you get started on this activity is you go to the client.properties.transactions files. Under topics, for topic 1 and topic 2, convert this or change this to use your student number. So here I'm using Kafka student 3, but keep this transactions 1 and transactions 2. These are the two topics we're going to be publishing to. I currently have a Bootstrap server to my Kafka endpoint, as well as my token for the Kafka security, which is right here. So if I go over to kproducer transactions, I'm going to scroll up here and get my Maven command, and we'll open a new terminal and execute this. Go to the top left here and go to terminal, new terminal. We need to move into the KSN folder, or the KSN training folder, and then I can go ahead and execute that Maven command. We'll go ahead and let that run. And you can see that we have an output that says sent record published by Kafka producer to two topics. I'm going to open up another terminal window. You can either go to the top left again and go to terminal new, or now that we have this one open, you can just hit the plus sign here. I'll have to move into the KSN training folder again. And then under Kafka consumer, I'm going to go ahead and get this Maven compile command. And this is going to read from one of the two topics that we published to and committed our transaction. We enter the while loop, and we end up consuming that message. I want to show you how easy it is to convert this particular application to now use KSN. If I go over to my transactions, client.properties.transactions file, I have a Bootstrap server that currently points to a Kafka endpoint. I'm going to go ahead and comment that out. And I'm going to uncomment this one. So you're going to have the same one here as what's in this file here. This is the training server that I have up. This is a Pulsar cluster that's hosted by StreamNative, and it has KSN enabled. And this is the endpoint that we're going to hit on port 9093. I'm going to also comment out the JWT section, or token section, I should say, of the Kafka server. And we're going to uncomment this one here, which has a public default username and then a password that has token, and then paste token here. This token was provided to you via email if you requested access to our StreamNative cluster. I've created a student account for you and given you the JWT token for that account. I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. And now we're ready to go ahead and test out our producer and consumer again. If I go back to the first terminal, I'm going to hit the up arrow here, and we're going to start up the producer. Now we're hitting a KSN-enabled StreamNative Pulsar cluster because we updated the URL, and we're using the JWT token to access that cluster for the Kafka student account that I provided to you. You can see here that we have sent record published by Kafka producer to two topics. If I go over to the consumer, I'm going to go ahead and close out to this current consumer that's running and then restart it. And we should see that we consume the one message that was just sent to the Kafka on StreamNative KSN enabled Pulsar cluster. You can see here that we've now produced and consumed our first message using KSN, as well as using transactions. You now can go ahead and test out transactions if you'd like by removing the commit line in the producer. You should see that the Kafka consumer will no longer consume the message because it hasn't yet been committed.